The idea of this film was to show a number of workplaces where they have introduced Kaizening or lean production. It comes under different names of TQM, CI, CIP, QI, but it all means lean production. It means people doing a lot more with a lot less people. It comes under so many different titles, but it's in every workplace. It runs from the airline industry to the auto industry, the auto parts industry, the fishing industry, the aerospace industry, every industry that we're involved in. Electrical, electronics, you can't name one that it isn't in. And you will recognize it when it comes to your job location and starts talking to you in a very nice way about how they want to make life easier so you can work smarter. It's referred to a lot. But at the end of the day, it's Kaizening. It's about getting people out of the system. We've had several experiences where they'll take a team of 4 or 5 people and convince them that by working smarter, they're all going to be better off. They're going to have more spare time. And in the early running, that's true. Then when they get the total Kaizening in, then they take somebody out of the team when everyone's running.
Synchronous production, or lean production, is a management-driven system that fundamentally changes the way we work. We'll look at 4 workplaces, each at a very different point in their reorganization. We'll look at management strategies for lean production and the union's responses to these changes. The objectives of lean production are to reduce our numbers, to get us to work harder in less time, and to use our knowledge and expertise for managerial objectives. It all serves one purpose: to maximize corporate profits by continuously decreasing their costs. Lean changes the methods and the language of work at every workstation. Management often expects us to Kaizen our jobs, that is, to continuously improve our jobs by reducing time, reducing tasks and people. Lean production changes the tools that we work with and how we use those tools. We're expected to conform to standardized procedures and to do a limited number of tasks repetitively. Synchronous changes the way that we're monitored and the way that we're managed. Changing technology increases management's capacity to measure and control each moment of our work. Lean production changes our relationships with each other. Management may expect us to work in teams, but at the same time creates the conditions that divide us from each other. Management promises that these changes are in our best interests and that we'll benefit from the opportunities to be heard, to be included and empowered. These promises may seem attractive to us, but for all the promise, how does lean production live out every day on the workplace floor?
What do I think of synchronizing production? I don't agree on it.
Why?
Because people are going to end up being injured workers with these here on. Take a picture. There's a guy wearing one there. Another guy down there. This whole plant. That's what's going to happen.
How does that happen?
Repetitive work. Speed work.
How do you mean speed?
Well, they keep pushing you. They want you to go faster, faster, faster.
Thanks for calling Air Canada. Corin speaking. How may I help you?
You're welcome. That's okay. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon, Air Canada. John speaking. May I help you?
Gold card is Lydia. Can I help you?
Air Canada, Ray speaking. How may I help you?
There's no assembly line in an Air Canada reservation office or a Canadian reservation office, but is management doing things that manage to introduce an invisible assembly line? Does our work as reservation agents start taking on the characteristics of work on an assembly line? And I'd say yes, that's precisely what's happening. That they're starting to standardize how we handle calls. They're starting to establish quotas on how many calls we handle in any given period of time. They're treating a personal social interaction between a reservation agent and a customer as another piece of bumper or a transmission or a piece of equipment that can be shifted around inside a plant. So what is essentially a human-based relationship takes on the characteristics of a production line.
Hold on, I'll be right with you. Hold on. Air Canada Gold Card, this lady, can I help you?
Our first priority is, mine in any case, is to the customer, right? But the company's priority is numbers, right? So there's not going to be it's not going to be equal, right? In order sometimes to give customer care, my numbers are going to be low. And the company is saying, no, no, we want high numbers, but we want equally high customer care, and you can't sometimes have both. So that's the problem. Therein lies the problem.
It's hard to make the balance. Like for you, the message for us as employee is sale, 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 sale. The message they give the customer is service, 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 you see.
The company managed to really take away the service factor because they were trying to increase sales and kept insisting on numbers and how quickly you do things and how many calls you take and so on.
And all the time, too. Cutting down on the number of people we're supposed to give this service.
When we refer to numbers, we call them measurements, right? Inline availability. When you plug in, when you plug out, how long you talked on the call, how long you were off the phones, those type of things. Those are the numbers. You're supposed to be on the phones for X amount of hours. You're off the phones X amount of hours. Anything above that, you have to be answerable for, even if it includes servicing passengers. Local fare is $661, with taxes $750.07. Now, if you'd like to make the reservations now, it's like an umbilical cord, technically. Once you plug in, you're hooked into them. They know when you go to the bathroom, how long you were off, when you took your lunch, how long if you're back a minute late. They know exactly what time you signed in and what time you signed out. There's a format. You're given a format about how you do it. You say your name, the company, how may I help you, right? And then you proceed to find out from where to where, how many, what days, round trip return, one moment. And then you tell them the fare, then you offer to book. Thanks for calling Air Canada Corin speaking. How may I help you? I have to spend time and develop that call and put my special touch and my unique, what makes Corin Corin, towards that passenger, that other person on that line, that other human being.
This is the way that the company expects you to standardize your work. The conversations are all preset.
Oh yeah, there's a format.
Oh yes, and it has to be asked a certain way. I've heard of people, even though they've made the sale, they sent the ticket by mail and everything else, did everything they had to do, but because they said the word "or" when they asked the question, would you like me to hold those seats for you, or just that word "or" was called. That was a deficient call.
Yes.
A deficient call.
Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly. That's how we are rated, you know? Calls that are deficient means that calls that did not meet their format. That special, that someone who sits in a room and listens to, because we're all taped.
They have the ability to monitor every minute of your day. The computer can monitor it, your supervisor can monitor it, the managers can, the people, the co-workers, literally every second of your day can be accounted for, and they can discipline you because you haven't used that time properly.
That's right. I told you that.
They're trying to manage through stress, manage through divide and conquer, manage through intimidation and technology.
Especially fear.
If you're on an assembly line, your process is relatively controlled. Every minute or every 2 minutes, there's a car going by you and you're doing something to it. Management control is immediate. At Air Canada or reservation offices generally, that wasn't there. Because the phone would ring, you'd pick it up, and all of a sudden you'd have a private interaction, a private conversation with someone on the other end. And management didn't know what you were doing. Part of lean production is this notion of management by sight, or visible management. What electronics does and surveillance does is Air Canada is make the work process visible to management and therefore controllable by management.
You talked about a system where you have a program where you recognize each other's achievements.
Oh yeah, that. What is it called?
What's it called?
PMCE.
Positive, memorable customer experience.
That's right. I think what it is the company underhandedly trying to entice employee to watch employee. Someone's watching you. It's your friend, it's the person who's sitting next to you, but they're watching you to see that you're doing a good job and to keep you in line. And the way they present it is that it's so that they can reward people, but that's not really it. The next step could be they're using the same program to punish people.
Well, the
You
user
know, it's
may
very
not.
easily the next step.
And I think that's one of the most terrible things that have come upon all this wonderful that they're coming out, wonderful things that they're coming out with, the user-friendly words. And that's all it is now. All the user-friendly words now are hiding a really dark, menacing face. And once you look past it, you'll realize that you've never seen anything like this before. The mask is beginning to slip. The facade is beginning to slip, and people are starting to recognize, they don't know what it is, but they're starting to recognize some of the ugliness. I keep telling agents on the floor, if more people speak up, you each have a voice, constitutionally, God-given right, to speak up. There's nothing that Air Canada can do to take it away from you.
What's the worst that can happen? They're gonna shoot you at dawn? I mean, really?
Exactly, right? It's going back to slavery. As I told the new management coming in here, slavery has been abolished. Let's move on now.
Hey, thanks for holding. Yeah, I'm still looking up. We're trying to get the city code here for Santa Cruz. We can't find it here in the computer to get me a fare. So if you just want to hang on a second, we're going to the book.
Valeo is a multinational corporation with its head offices in Paris, France. It manufactures car and truck radiators worldwide. Valeo's corporate strategy has forced the Stratford plant to reorganize for synchronous production. This is a plant in dramatic transition. The introduction of flow lines and the extensive outsourcing of radiator parts have led to the layoff of over 100 workers. The level of job insecurity is very high. At the same time, the synchronous plan includes systems and training programs to encourage employee involvement, team building, and worker empowerment. The union leadership has decided to work cooperatively but cautiously with the Stratford management to keep their plant alive. The first team has been formed as a model of worker reorganization.
When I came over to the single pack area, they more or less just came up to me and asked me, would you like to be on our team with us to the meetings each week? So that's when I joined.
We've been having group meetings for about a year and a half now. We're like as a single pack action team.
Most of us been together quite a while.
Single pack is putting radiators after they've come down individually in cardboard. The single pack action team is one of the beginning pilot teams, and we like to call them self-directed work teams, and that this group would be involved with more decision making. Right now they order their own cardboard, skids. They're just getting, it's more responsibility. I mean, it's more work. It's not working harder, but it's just more I don't want to say office work, but more paperwork. There's more paperwork. They're working on the computer where 5 years ago they never went near the computer, but it's more responsibility, bottom line. They're held accountable for what they do. They went over to France as a team and did a presentation. That's a big change. They weren't really prepared to speak in front of people, but they made a real good presentation.
Being in the team going to France, I think we feel like we're part of the plant. It makes us feel more involved. The company, the way they've seen us, sending us to France, they see us as somebody too. Like we're not just an employee out on the floor that's there for 40 hours a week and that's it.
5 years ago, we didn't care about our job and we took everything for granted, but today we care about our job and we want to survive in the workplace, basically.
I think nowadays we really have to care about our job because there is no other job. When I first started here, I could go from factory to factory around this town. Now I can't. You know, if I quit here or lose my job here, I don't know where I'm going to get a job next.
Just speaking for myself, I like it about 100% better than what it used to be, being a self-directed team, because now we're more like reliable for everything. Like we just order our things, and if it comes in, if it don't come in, we'll take the responsibility for it. We don't have to blame nobody else but ourselves. You know?
I'm not for it at all, really.
George's got a lot of change.
No, I was just talking today. I've been working since I was 16, and you know, I worked in Ireland. I'm from Ireland, but and thing in those days, things were completely different. You went in, you'd done your work, you were showed what to do, and that was it. Management you didn't even see.
We had a long ways to go yet, and a long road, but Like I say, in the last few years, there have been a lot of good changes. Not all positive, but this plant here was in so much trouble 5 years ago, she was almost closed up. You know, this plant was almost gone. If we didn't change, lock the doors up, and that was basically it. Like, we had to change because everybody else was already changed 5 years ahead of us. Like, they were already gone ahead of us, and we were going further back, you know? So it was basically, it came right down to it. You smarten up or ship out, you know, and that was basically it.
We were in the Stone Age.
Yeah. We're not only competing against other customers, we're competing against our other value plants. If we don't change, we're not going to be around in 5 years.
We won't be competitive enough.
You got to get the rad out, or the product out to the customer. It comes at all costs. You have to get to satisfy that demand. If you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. With Kaizen, they asked me to be a leader of the group, and we wanted to downsize the area, make it more into a U-shape to a flow line because it was zigzagged. So we wanted to make it more of a horseshoe, and they wanted us to get down to a tack time of 83 seconds per rad. And we achieved these goals, but at the cost of eliminating or freeing up one's man's job.
What happened that you had so much to do?
Well, they took a wire wrapper way off. There used to be a person take it out of that machine and put it in here. And he's no longer here.
So
we got to do it.
Workplaces are becoming places where only the young and the fit and the able can survive, and maybe only for a limited time. Management is shifting the basis of all our notions of employment security, because it may be the case that we're not laid off, it may be the case that we're burnt out, we're injured, where there's no place to accommodate us.
If they went throughout the whole plant and did this, say in 30 different areas, there are going to be people not being moved. They're going to be moved out the door because there isn't going to be any place to put them.
But is that wrong to want to make a rad at a cheaper price?
It's not wrong, Kathy, but I think it was wrong for our fellow employee to do that, to actually have a say to another fellow employee that you no longer needed this job. I don't think it's our right to do that. And that's a lot of people on the floor. A lot of people didn't agree with that stuff.
The key to Kaizen, or the key to this, my project on Kaizen, was to meet tack time. And if everybody would work to tack time, we wouldn't have any problems. For my personal opinion, of course. Tack time, you work 83 seconds, where everybody is working at the same pace all the time. The rad is going a flow.
What lean does is change production. What that means for us is that lean management through lean looks at our jobs with such detailed scrutiny and with such clear objectives like they have never done before. Basically, it really is trying to change the logic of production. It's trying to change everything about production, from the way material is handled to the way we do our jobs. So production flows, work processes, the way we do our jobs, every second in our work is now up for grabs.
We're out to do it, to make our job better for us. Work hard, smarter, not harder, and have a better flow of everything coming to us and going out. But to eliminate, I think I can speak as a group, we would not sit down and try to eliminate somebody else's job in our group. No way. That's where we would draw the line.
What's your hope here? What's your hope for this plant in Stratford?
New business.
More business.
Certainly.
More business.
Yeah.
Be number one.
That is going in another 5 years.
What was that, Dave?
That it's going in another 5 years.
That we still have a job.
Like to bring everybody back, you know, have the whole full force of, you know, employees back here.
If you can guarantee me a job, a 40-hour week for the next 25 years, I want that job. And I'll give my 100%, what I can give, to the company for that.
That's the most important part to you.
Yes. I want job security.
That particular group have had some successes, okay? They've put together some ideas and they've been allowed the autonomy to deal with them up to and including ordering their cardboard and really redesigning to a degree their work area and their work function.
The team they got together and it's been successful only because the company wants it to be successful. To let other people see what a team of so many people can do. They're going to give them everything they want. And it's a good way to brainwash them. Then they're going to get the other people think, well, if they can do it, we can do it. But once you get all these teams going and these teams aren't getting what they want and these teams aren't, these teams are, here comes your conflict, side to side.
We said to the company candidly, we will not interfere with trying to better and cost-saving measures, but in no way, shape, form, or description are you putting language in the collective agreement dealing with the team concept. And so far, we've been able to keep it out. Because we do cooperate as much as we can and still retain our trade union ideals. We absolutely draw the line at workers pitting worker against worker. It's all very nice and good and tickety-boo to work in a team concept, and you really should try to get along with people, and I always refer to the marriage counselor aspect of it. But if it becomes a confrontagious issue between worker and worker, then we're going to interfere. We do have our saturation level.
It's bothering me because the work cells that are going in now, people have been used to working on their own, handing in their own counts. Now they're working with 7, 10 people, and they're starting to pit each other against each other. And then they drive that person right out of the cell. They can't take the pressure any longer. We've had several incidents of that already, and we're just getting into this cell stuff in the flow lines.
There is no limit to profit. The more you make, the more they want. And it'll keep going that way forever and ever and ever. It's only common sense. Your shareholders say, we want more profit. Then the company comes around and says, we want more work, less people. And this is what they're doing. You've been around the plant, you've seen the changes. You see a flow line going in. That's going to consist of maybe 15 people to make a red coming in the door and going out the door in a straight line. We're doing it our way out on the floor with all the people. It takes how many people, Joe?
20.
So you put 6, 7 flow lines in, you're losing 5 people a line, say
30, 40 people.
30, 40 people right there, bang. And that's just going to be the start of it. Once these 15 people get in sequence with the flow line, the next step comes ahead. One of the work groups will say, we can do it with 14 people. We can eliminate that person, move him or her over to that other job. Eventually, you're going to keep moving these people till you only got 7 on a line. Where are these other people going to be at the end? Unemployment.
You do 100% with 100 people. And once you achieve that, then you do 100% with 90 people. And once you achieve that, you keep going and going and going. But Kaizen, we kind of put the kibosh on them.
I don't trust them. I never have. I've seen too many types of programs come in here and where the companies used it to their advantage. They use people's ideas and they use it against them. They say that will never happen. Each program, each time there's a new program, they say that'll never happen. But it's always happened in different ways.
This whole question of team concept, does it mean that we're going to have some input into how long it's going to take us to do it, into the processes? Or does it mean that we're simply going to use our experience and expertise to further the profitability of the organization, and at what cost? And those are the questions that we must keep asking ourselves.
If we all do work smarter and instead of leaving our brains at the door like they're saying, maybe it will, maybe in our own minds as a committee, we'll bring these 70 people back plus more. That's, I guess, the whole outlook of looking at it. And I guess we have to look at it that way.
The corporate has their agenda of what's going to happen. It doesn't matter if we have a good idea or a bad idea. It's either the corporate likes it or they don't like it. If it's a good idea and they don't like it, it's not going to happen. I mean, them telling us that we're going to have autonomy and all this stuff is we'll have autonomy as much as they'll let us have it. And after that, they're still going to call the shots. You get accused of sleeping with management because you're sitting in meetings with them. That people take the perception out there that, oh, yeah, if something goes wrong, then it's the union's fault because they're saying to the company, okay, you can do that. Where we say to the company, and we've been saying it, pounding it into them, is that don't touch the contract. We'll listen to you, we'll try and help you, but don't touch the contract.
I think it's important to point out, though, that when this particular last pass at a team concept, whatever you want to call it, came in and we were to form a steering committee, the bargaining committee were successful in having all 5 members from that committee on the steering committee as opposed to 3 top managers. And I think that's important because we're able to, so far, exercise at least some restraints and control over the direction that things are going. You see, it's so important to understand that everyone on this committee feels very strongly what a dangerous, thin, tightrope fine line we're walking and which way do you fall. But we also feel that based on the present conditions, that we're going to continue as we are in supporting this as far as we can go, again, without bastardizing our union ideals. And we know how dangerous. It's politically dangerous for us. It's dangerous, just plain dangerous.
Lear Seating is an American-owned multinational with over 40 plants worldwide. The Kitchener plant currently employs 500 production workers. Management made it clear that there be no new work sent to the Kitchener factory unless it was reorganized. The bargaining committee is developing a strategy to control the conditions of the reorganization. They negotiated a 6-month pilot project. One of the major questions posed by the changing situation at Lear is, can workers work in groups without submitting to the demands of team concept? When filmed, the pilot project was just 2 weeks into the 6-month process, and the group was working hard to understand the complexities of the reorganization. In the shift from piecework to time work, Lear workers are concerned that they'll end up doing more work for less money. At the same time, the group is shifting to job rotation, and some of the group members are worried that injured workers will not be accommodated.
In most workplaces, or in many workplaces, workplace change is a unilateral management action. Management decides that they're going to reorganize the way the work flows, the way work processes are handled, the way jobs are done. At Lear, the local union and management came to an agreement that to try and achieve a common set of objectives, but also independent objectives. Management had its goals, the union has its goals, and there's a structure and a way of trying to work that out to find some common ground. It's a pilot project. So for a period of 6 months, a group of workers are moving from a situation of job ownership to working as a group and trying to actually make that work.
We have the bargaining committee and there's a company committee, and every decision that's made is made by consensus. And that's been the agreement from the beginning. There hasn't been one agreement made yet that is outside of the collective agreement. So the company more or less could have just went away and did all this stuff anyway, except our people wouldn't have cooperated and it wouldn't have worked that way. In this pilot area, we are changing the way that people work in the plant. We're moving from incentive work to non-incentive work, and we are rotating people through jobs, and we are also doing away with first-line supervision, and the employees will be taking on more responsibility and more control of their everyday work environment. So you're moving from a situation where the harder you work, the more money you make,
to a situation which that the pay is regulated and set in advance, where you may see people working indeed very hard and very fast. And that's specifically a situation the union is trying to address, because the fallout of that has been incredible rates of repetitive strain injuries, incredible compensation, lost time, people off, injured, hurt. People are not surviving. So it may be good money in a short time, but maybe it's not the way that we sustain our health in the long term.
It's been my experience that doing incentive production for almost 9 years now that I've worked here, it has affected my body dramatically. Sometimes I think that if I continue in the direction that I am, I'm going to be crippled. There are times where I injure myself on a daily basis, not necessarily cutting or bruising, etc., but I experience a lot of discomfort in a certain part of my body, and it tends to move from different parts of my body depending on the job that I'm on.
But there's a lot of people on the floor that don't want time, well, more or less time work or team concept, because they know they're going to have to drop from $23 or $24 an hour down to $19.34.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, that's a big wage cut to take. So if the company implemented this plant-wide, that's right.
No, that is.
But I thought maybe I might live another 5 years longer if I could get off pacework, because pacework will kill you.
One of the hardest things for the team to learn how to do is to get rid of that instinct to drive and go, because you're no longer going to be paid for that anymore.
But that's built into us. We've been doing that.
But you don't want certain people that are going to continue at the pace they are now, where they're hurting themselves, to make that big buck, because everybody's going to be making the same. You have to come to a level pace that everybody, some people might have to come up, but there's a lot of people that are going to have to come down to that pace.
That's why we're trying to call it.
Who's going to determine how many you're supposed to do? Me?
Working in groups has its values. 3 people can solve a problem better than 1. The group of 10 people may have a goal of 100 pieces, we'll say, for example. Now, if we're going to have 10 people and we're going to have 8 of those people or 7 of those people saying, hey, wait a minute, we want to do 100, you can only do 90, you're no good, or you're not up to par, or you're not doing what's expected from the group. I think as a union we need to deal with that. And I think as a union we need to deal with that to make sure that that individual workers' rights are protected to do 90. And 90 is enough.
Say the person isn't pulling their weight. You've tried. The steward, the facilitator, the people have talked, and it's not working. Then we bring it to you, right?
Not pulling your weight is a disciplinary thing, and that will be handled by the company. Okay?
And that will take people like us, ratting out on each other, right? Like as a team, you're gonna rat out on each other to.
I hope not.
Well, I don't know. That's what.
Some of this is going to come out in the open, Paul. We got to find out.
Yeah,
like,
you got
if
people.
the person isn't pulling the weight,
That's
what do
right.
we do? Just put up with it
gonna
and
say
shut
it?
up? Like, I mean, it's got to come out now.
This whole situation is entirely new. All relationships are called into question. All structures no longer work the way that they used to work. So the group is working its way through that.
Do the best plans you can within the capability of the people themselves.
We've had the training by a mutually agreed upon consultant. Within the first 2 weeks, we had major problems with the restricted workers, people that couldn't rotate throughout the group as other people could, and we had some peer pressure problems with people jumping on those people for not cooperating because they couldn't cooperate. And so they needed some additional training, and during this past 2 weeks, the past 2 weeks, they've had some training from the union, which we hope will kind of fix those problems.
Make any changes, right?
You have to see it. You have to know
You have to see where management is going, right?
That's, I guess,
or where they're trying to take it.
That's right.
Right? Basically.
That's basically that's what we've spent a lot of time on in the last day and a half, is trying to get a sense, first of all, of where the corporate strategy is taking it, and secondly, of trying to develop ways of making that different. I mean, to talk about job design, there's a number of ways of talking about job design, right? One way of talking about it is the way they did there. There's a guy saying we're 1 minute and 59 seconds over. Let's shave seconds. Or there's the way that you talked about it yesterday. Let's make jobs safe. Let's reduce RSIs. Let's build skill into jobs. You know, just quickly going over those. Let's have more control over jobs. Let's have more training in jobs. A much different way.
The union has its concerns and the company has its goals. And with the pilot project, they're trying to give you both perspectives so you have a sense of direction as to where to go with the whole thing.
Right.
Okay, they go on the side of the bed.
It seems that, in a way, the company is shift the responsibility from management to the worker themselves. In a way, that's where the peer pressure get involved. And the peer pressure, at some point, gonna create a lot of problems within the cell. I believe that in a lot of companies that start these programs, that was one of the major cause of the demise of the program itself. And in our plant, we were able to just start with this pilot project for 6 months. Hopefully we'll be able to solve some of these problems.
The part that worries me the most is the unknown. It's an unknown thing, and every time we spend time in bargaining sometimes on one word. The company wants to move from the word shall to the word will, or we want to move from the word will to the word may. We spend sometimes 5 hours in caucus talking about a one-word change. Now we're talking about 1 million different words. And certainly, I mean, it makes you scared that you're going to make a mistake. We're becoming more confident. Our members expect us as a bargaining committee and the national union as our advisors to make sure that we don't make any major mistakes. If we make minor ones, we'll fix them next set of negotiations, but we're not going to make any major mistakes. And now we're comfortable with that. We weren't in the beginning, a year and a half ago, but we're much more comfortable now. Our people have lived with and enjoyed the feeling of solidarity for 25 years in our plant. One worker sticking up for another. In some cases, 400 people sticking up for 50 people. And if you're not very careful on the training and the mindset of the people, and which is why we got the union training involved here to build the solidarity, you can easily turn 400 people against 50 people, and they may be injured workers. And our people in our plant, I feel quite confident that when it's all done and put to bed, that our people are going to remember and understand solidarity.
Cami, initially it's a joint venture between General Motors and Suzuki. And it's set up to produce small cars and small sports utility vehicles for that market niche. It's also an opportunity for General Motors to learn about and to actually showcase lean production or synchronous manufacturing. How do you change the way you produce in North America and change the ground rules inside the plant in terms of how people work, the pace of production, all of that? Cami, at the outset, was sold to people as a different workplace, that this was going to be different than any other North American auto plant. What we've learned at Cami was traveling to lean isn't in our interests. The promise of Cami in people terms didn't materialize.
I started looking into the situation when Cami put a big recruitment drive together and presented it at the college where I just finished studying electronic technology.
So what did you hope for? What were your wishes going into that plant?
Well, I suppose the same dreams as anybody else has. I mean, you're looking for a certain amount of fulfillment, a certain amount of outlet. Everybody thinks that they have a contribution to make in the world, and this sounded like the perfect environment to go out and actually make something important happen, something big, something that everybody knows about.
We were told that, you know, it would be a place where we would all work together as a team, and there would be a lot of open communication between management and the people, and that concept really appealed to me and always had. So I thought, this is it. As soon as I heard it was going to open, I thought, this is our utopia, you know. So I applied for it and went there.
You couldn't help but be excited about it. I mean, there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of pump. They have a lot of buzzwords that they use, which sound wonderful. You know, this idea of employee involvement and everyone's opinion being valued, and the ability to get involved and to make something happen. You couldn't help but get pumped and excited about it.
I swallowed it, hook, line, and sinker. I thought that, you know, God, we got to get out there. We got to produce. We have to be low cost. We have to run because our lives depend on it here in the automotive industry, you know. And so I went out and I tried it for quite some time until I woke up to the fact that this isn't humanly possible.
It's a system that's often described as management by stress. What does that mean?
What does it mean? Management by stress. They have, it's not just a management philosophy. I mean, the plant is actually mechanically set up. I mean, the equipment is actually designed to be called management by stress. They have, the line speed is monitored by computer, and they have these cords by the side of the assembly lines. And there's a yellow cord and there's a red cord, and these are called andons. And the yellow andon is something that you pull and it makes music. And what it does is it alerts the team leader that you're having trouble keeping up. And the team leader rushes over and helps you with whatever it is you're having trouble with. The red andon is what you do when you know help isn't close enough and you're going to have to let the car go by without something being done on it. And that stops the line. I mean, you have the ability to stop the line. That makes you a very important person. But look out, if you pull that red andon, you're going to be in big trouble. And what they do is they monitor how often the yellow andon is pulled. And they monitor how often the red andon is pulled, because that costs production-wise. I mean, the line stops, and I mean, cars stop going down the line, and one less car pops out at the other end, and that's big trouble. And what they do is they adjust the line speed until there's lots of yellow andons, but very few or no red andons. And then once everybody gets used to that, and everybody's starting to do a good job, fewer yellow andons, everybody's starting to feel a little more comfortable, they're getting used to things, what happens? Turn the line speed up again. Management by stress.
I can remember trying to figure out what was the matter with me or my process that I couldn't keep up. And although I had been used to hard physical labor on the farm, and I was able to keep up there and pull my part of the weight there, I was trying to figure out, why can't I keep up to this process? And I became a little bit obsessive, I guess, in trying to figure out my grab. I would think that's just how you grab your parts and your nuts and your screws and how you hold it. And I can remember dreaming at night.
Oh, yeah.
Grabbing 4 screws, 2 bolts, 2 washers, and the gearbox, and going like this, trying to figure out how I can cut out seconds out of the process to install it faster, take less steps, carry more parts on you so you don't have to, you know, go back to your workstation as much. And I can remember dreaming about that, trying to squeeze those extra seconds out because I needed them, because I wasn't keeping up, couldn't keep up. And I thought it was me instead of the process. And
I've found the same thing. Constantly focusing back on when there was problems in your team or your work environment, it was me. What have I done wrong? What can I do differently? Why is this not working? What can I change of myself to make the work process better?
can remember when we were doing speeding up the line, and they wanted us to Kaizen our team to Kaizen one job out of it, one full person's work out so we could have a floater. And I remember that illustrated to our team in no uncertain terms that we did. We were very proud of ourselves. We squeezed every second out of every job, but the only way that that would work was with our floater person delivering us our parts, unwrapping our stuff, and being close at hand when things screwed up, because you just didn't have time to back that bolt out, tap it, and put it in yourself anymore. That cushion time was gone. So then it was just shortly after that, we were patting ourselves in the back, still thinking how clever we were. We had a floater. Our jobs were Kaizen right down to like bare minimum. Bang. Floaters are no longer acceptable. They're gone. And we had just been had big time. Mm-hmm. Our whole team just sort of opened our eyes and thought, oh my God, we just Kaizened a whole person out of our team, accepted that whole person's work. Our floater's gone, and we've essentially screwed ourselves out of that and thought we were quite clever doing it. And
manipulated is what we were.
Manipulated. And it was at that point where we sort of realized that, well, personally, I realized it from sitting over in the health center in the icing room there, and it was just a bit past the point where I was thinking, you know, oh God, I can't keep up because it's me. I was for quite some time the only woman on my team, and then I kept thinking, well, maybe it's just because I just don't have the muscles to do it. But then after my experience on the farm, I could keep up with my husband, just being able to switch jobs or back the truck up closer so it's not such a long lift or whatever. But being able to, you didn't have those choices. You had to put your wrench there on the workstation. You couldn't put it, you know, where it was comfortable or handy. It had to be so standardized and standardized to the point of being ridiculous. There was no function for it. It was just to prove a point of who was in control almost. And so then as I sat in the health center with this constant flow of people coming in and out, I noticed that, yes, there were women in the health center being iced too, but there's also 6'2" men that were like 250-pound, real strong-looking specimens, looking real pathetic, sitting there with ice packs on 3 different parts of their body. And that's when I personally started to realize that, you know, being a woman on the line has nothing to do with it. It wasn't me, and it wasn't the fact that I was a woman. It was the fact that my body just couldn't withstand this kind of work. And it was the process or the pressures put on you to produce.
The thing is, if you look at him, and then you look at somebody like Tracy, the girl that's on this team, I mean, if he's getting hurt, there's a good possibility everybody's going to be hurt, right? So they should be taking some long-term steps to fix it, right?
They should be. They're not.
But they're not.
No.
So really what they did was they hired terrific people, and then they put them into an environment where terrific people would not only not thrive, but where they would start to hurt. And I mean hurt in many ways, not only physically, which it's a kind of a demand that this sort of a job is going to have, but also psychologically, because they picked bright people, and then they demanded that they not be bright.
Well, I was actually brought in, as I said, as a production associate. After about 3 months, I was promoted to team leader. And at that time, I had such an attitude that, oh, they're giving me more to do. They're very happy with me. I've got to show them that I can do it. I've got to do my best, and you know. So I spent so much time coming in early, working late, doing extra work, working through my breaks, through my lunches. It's a difficult position to try and be a member of the team and also promote the company's ideals. It's an extremely difficult position. I was my one way at work and another way at home. And I was not a whole person, and my team began to see this, that, you know, why is she siding with them? Why is she not looking at how hard this job is for us to do? How little time we have to do this? How human we are? We need to go to the washroom. We need to get off the line to do other things. We need to use the telephone on odd occasions when things come up. Why can't she see this? And it got to the point where I liked these people I worked with, and I still do. But I got to the point where they looked at me as the enemy. But the constant stress at work and going home and crying all the way home and wondering, what have I done? Why is management treating me this way? Why is the team treating me this way? What is happening? What have I done wrong? I've done everything the company has told me to do. I followed all their Nagari values and all that team concept and Kaizen and all that. I've done everything what they've told me to do. Why is this happening? So finally, I made the decision to step down. That was it. I'd had enough. They want control. Control over not just the way we do our jobs, but the way we are personally, our emotions, everything. They want complete control over us as people. And it's come to the point where we're starting to realize this and we're rebelling.
You can't fight it by yourself. You can't internalize it. And one thing you can't do is come down on one another, and that's very common. People get injured, other people have to take up the slack, and they don't look at the company and say, you know, why are you doing this to us? What are they doing? They're looking at the injured worker and saying, well, how badly are you really hurt? There's a lot of that going on. You can't do that. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, and, you know, it's going to be you one day, and you're going to find out what it's like to be in that person's shoes. So you really need to get together.
You can either be mad at the whole world for the rest of your life and become very bitter, or you can try to become active in some way to change that. And being a union rep on the floor, I do see the people that have questioned, like, well, how can we make this better? How can we not get people injured? How can we work against this control issue?
A lot of us, you know, not coming from a union background, had no idea really what a union did or what it was supposed to do. So I got more involved in that kind of thing. And then I started, after the injury, starting realizing what was safe for workers, what was a proper work environment, and that sort of thing. And now I'm very strongly fighting WCB policies and workplace policies when it comes to injured workers.
I got involved in the union originally because I thought that maybe having a level head to temper what I figured would inevitably be a group of left-wing union hotheads kind of undermining the company ideals would be a good idea. One day, I'm the down-home boy who grew up in his dad's business having very right-wing leanings all my life, and then 2 days later, I'm in the midst of the annual convention of the Ontario Federation of Labor. So I began to see what the labor movement was all about from the inside instead of from the outside. And it made a terrific difference to me.
It's very complex in the workplace. A lot of the times you feel like, you know, David and Goliath, you know, like you're working at this huge rolling machine here with all the financial help they want. They have computers in their office and you got your notebook. You know, and your slingshot isn't really good, but it works sometimes. But you have to educate, you have to be as smarter than them. And the only way I could see that was I became involved in attending some union schools, which really helped me find out some of the ongoing psychological games that are played against us as workers and how to diffuse that, how to look at things in a realistic sense, and how to help other workers do this too.
There are numerous ways of fighting the system from within, of using these work concepts to your own advantage, but you have to get together and you have to do it. One of the things we did out at the Cami plant, when they decided that they were going to keep on turning up the line, one of the biggest problems that we had as a union leadership was to get people to pull those damned andon cords. Stop the line. Go ahead and stop the line. If you're short people, stop the line. They put those cords there, not us. One day I think we had something like 87 red andon calls on one line. And they had been fighting and fighting and fighting to get an extra person on that line because somebody had been injured, and they couldn't get it. They pulled that cord 87 times in one day. The new person was on that line the next day.
This was a young workforce, it was a young plant, and it had a 5-week strike. What happened?
This is the first time that a Japanese transplant or a joint venture has been struck. What went wrong? It was the case that the contradiction between workers' interests and lean production had not an inevitable outcome, but a somewhat predictable outcome, that it would reach a point of tension and that kind of confrontation. The questions it posed were, I think, were twofold, really. Is it possible to build a strong union in a lean production plant? And the answer at Cami was, I think, yes. The turnout at union meetings, the newsletter, everything, the membership support, the activities on the floor, all speaks to a strong union, which then led to the second question, does it matter? Does it matter? If you build a strong union, can you use that strength to modify the conditions of lean production? And that was even the bigger question. And I think what the strike said and the resulting collective agreement said yes. And questions like that are never resolved once and for all in a workplace. You don't have one new collective agreement and everything's taken care of. But the gains made in the collective agreement around work organization issues, as well as around wages and benefits, clearly answered the question, yes, that a strong local union makes a difference, that it can modify the terms and conditions of lean production.
So I'd like to ask Buzz Hargrove to come up and address the membership.
The solutions are on the shop floor, as they always are. It's the solidarity of the workers and challenging the company's right to take away all of the time, challenging it through an understanding that the lean and mean is good for the company, but it's not good for workers. That means more strains, more sprains, more injuries on the job. It means more stress. And the question is, the response will be different in each location as workers respond, as they best collectively decide. There's no simplistic answer. If I could say, here's a solution today, it would be great, but I don't have that. That has to be decided by the individual groups of workers in the workplace.
And what's the role, the relationship between the national union in this struggle for strategy and the local union?
Well, initially it's to provide people with information, to have discussion, look at this film and have discussion about what's happening in their workplace, an understanding of it, and then talk about solutions and then our support for their solutions. As they see a fight back program and developing it, they'll have the full support and resources of the national union in their fight back program.